question is on nature protection.
Hi everybody, my name is Una Duggan, I'm with Birdwatch Ireland. So my questions, there's two parts to it on protection for nature. But I just want to state, I don't know if you're aware, but biodiversity has been valued at conservatively being worth 2.6 billion to the Irish economy. This is a report done by the Department of the Environment a few years ago. But the state of our biodiversity, it's not in a good position. 91% of our internationally important habitats in Ireland are at bad or inadequate status. We're looking at severe declines of farmland bird species and breeding waders such as curlew. Curlew has declined by 80%. So that's just a small sample of what's happening with biodiversity in Ireland. And so, since the economic crash, we have seen a massive reduction in support for those working to protect our natural environment in the environmental NGO sector, as well as a 70% cut in funding for the National Parks and Wildlife Service, which was a disproportionate cut. They are charged with the protection of nature in Ireland. We've also recently seen an attempt to allow hedge cutting and upland burning in a month earlier for both, at times when birds are nesting. More than 15,000 Irish people have recently signed a petition to stop this. This is a very detrimental act to be pursuing. So my questions are, will you oppose any extension of the cutting and burning season? And will you prioritise the restoration of funding to the National Parks and Wildlife Service to at least pre-crisis levels?
Yeah, we're just going to switch the order. Yeah, exactly. So you just
put me in an embarrassing situation of having to admit that there's nothing specific in our national manifesto in relation to the hedge cutting season and burning. I understand it was in our local election manifesto, and in many ways it is an issue for local authorities. But I think you make a good point, and we are in favour of restoring funds to the National Parks and Wildlife Service.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Well, I'll take the easier question first, which is in the biodiversity plan. We have 7 objectives there in the biodiversity plan, and I actually. I just want to answer this part first. It's on the general. Pardon? I have taken up, as you know, the Heritage Bill and the Wildlife Act in Section 40 was reviewed recently, and in the Heritage Act there was, and the Minister did, after consultation, and I did question this with her, with various groups and interests and non-interests as well, and it was extended. It is extended at the moment. It is well, it's not final. The bill isn't passed, so it's at report stage at the moment. But the Minister I have been talking to the Minister about this because I want to ensure, number one, obviously we're bound by legislation and European legislation on biodiversity. And when you say extended to the bird nesting season, there's no way that you could obviously burn a hedge or anything else if there's nests in it to ensure that happens. Now, the Minister has said to me, it's the drawing up of the guidelines that's going to be important here, and how those guidelines, because the guidelines haven't been drawn up as yet. So that's very important, and the Minister, they aren't done as yet, and that's where I have more questions to ask the Minister on that. Now, she has as well said that it is, and it is in the Act as well, that it is a pilot for 2 years and a review of it after that. Now, as I said to the Minister, 2 years might be too late because regeneration of a various species, if it goes for 1 year, it would be lost. So that is a question that I put to the Minister as well, and to ensure that the guidelines, when they are drawn up, if you have obviously places of nesting or whatever, that you have to have different guidelines for there that you would have for the side of the road where there's a hedge or whatever. But on the different objectives for biodiversity in general, we have 7, as I said, to strengthen the knowledge base for conservation, to increase awareness.
We don't need all of those.
Yeah. You just want the bad news, but you don't want the good news. But there's a little bit of all organisations, as you know, and I will be speaking to community organisations tomorrow on a platform as well. every single organisation in the country, I think, was hit with cuts. And definitely now, with the fastest growing economy in Europe, when we took over, there was no money there. And I think everybody knows that, and people had to be cut. But now restoration is in progress. And definitely, all organisations now will see an improvement. I can't say that the full 30% to restore. Yes, and in every aspect, but the detail of the percentage is not mentioned. And I think that's one of the things. Will you restore it to pre-cut level? I can't give a commitment here that I'm going to in there next, whenever, please God, if we're back, hopefully we'll be back in government. But I can give a commitment that all biodiversity, nature, and the programme and the graph that's there and implementation will have to be done. And there's measurement there as well. And it isn't only me that's looking at it. There is a measurement process in train to ensure that the biodiversity programme, as outlined with all the various bodies, is implemented. We can't do that with the hands tied behind the back.
Thanks. I think, well, I'll take the funding first. You're right, funding was decimated to the National Parks and Wildlife Service. I believe it was half in 2011 and then it's been chipped away progressively each year. We have committed to restoring it to pre-crisis levels, which I think is about 23 million. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have agreed to restore it. But also around nature protection and the biodiversity, when it came to the changes in the hedgerow cutting and the burning, we felt that the arguments that were put forward in favour of that were not robust enough to warrant a change in the practices. I'm an ecologist. It's one thing I do understand very clearly is biodiversity, and you're right, there are economic benefits to biodiversity that are not appreciated. For example, the pollinators, our agricultural industry depends absolutely on biodiversity. So to have anything that interferes with that or to cut the funding that protects that biodiversity, it's going to have knock-on effects for other economic areas. So,
all right, thank you.
Yeah, we can give commitments on both of those questions, and more generally, we oppose any cuts that would adversely impact on biodiversity. But in addition, to return to my favourite subject of trees, we need a major public works programme because afforestation is really critical to enhancing of native species in particular, and shift away from the sort of monocultural model of forestry to enhance biodiversity. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Yes, we would commit to both the stopping the weakening of the environmental protection measures that has been introduced and also increasing or restoring funding for the Wildlife Service Commission. Can I make one general point or just three very specifics?
Yeah.
First general point, and there was a very good conference organised by Green Foundation Ireland on the need for constitutional protection for nature. And I think that's one of the fundamental overarching changes we need to make, so we have a legal mechanism of protecting nature. Three then specifics. First on forestation, I would agree with Richard, but I think we need to change to a form of continuous cover forestry rather than clear-felling forestry. That would have significant benefit in terms of biodiversity. Secondly, as I understand, talking to the best biologists and others, one of the biggest losses in our environmental quality is in the loss of pristine water quality. We need to make major investment in water systems to restore overall the level of high quality water. That's the big erosion that's taking place. And last but not least, in terms of our responsibility for our part of the planet, our sea area is 10 times our land area. The fisheries policy has been improved slightly, but not enough. We need significant areas where conservation is the first objective, and we restore the marine environment where the greatest destruction is taking place in our area of responsibility for the planet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question, and the answer is yes to both. In terms of the extending of the cutting and the burning, no, we will not support that. And in terms of the cuts and investment in social infrastructure, community services, or services, our manifesto is a very prudent manifesto. It's been independently costed, and it prioritises investment in public services over tax breaks. It's very different to what the government is promising when we look at low US style taxes, which will mean for the cuts or poor investment, at least in social infrastructure.